Hey folks, Dr. Starr here, Silver Spring Medical Center. Just wanted to tackle the next question of the day, which we get quite a lot, which is how do I read a food label? For God's sakes, these things are so complex. Well, let me tell you something. In the last, and by the way, yes, I do typically only see the question. I did stick up there a little nutrition facts just so that you can follow along. If you're driving, please do not look at your phone. Just listen, you can look at it later on, but I included this little snapshot just so that you can kind of follow along on some of the contents of the label. About 5 or 10 years ago, they started including calories from fat within the amount of calories per serving, which is great because the truth of the matter is the two things that you absolutely have to get used to looking at with food labels is fat content and sodium. Those are two really important things. Now, if you notice along the side of the label, typically it shows you a percentage of daily value. Ignore all of those. Any percentage you see on the side there is based on a quote-unquote 2,000 calorie diet, and it's also based on the recommended daily allowance, okay, the RDA. That is bogus. Do not follow that. Don't ever follow that. They recommend according to their own statistics and studies that say you should have a 33% of your diet should come from fat. That is way too high. If you're interested in being healthy and having a healthy weight, you will throw out those numbers. God bless America and the government, but when it comes to nutrition, I would not trust it for a second. Please do not follow those because they are based only on the amounts of they're too high and they're not healthy. So ignore the percentages of daily value completely on every and any label. So when you look at a label, the most important thing in addition to the fat and the sodium is the number of servings. Now, if you look at anything, it's important to know how many servings are in there, right? That's why when we look at that PAM or spray oil that we all have in our kitchens, it looks like it's a teeny little bit of nothing. They actually round it down so that it says 0, which is wrong and obviously incorrect because it's a bottle of oil, for God's sakes. It can't be fat-free. However, the serving size is like 1/15 of a quarter of a second. It's a little spray. Nobody sprays that I know of in kitchens. It's always a sustained spray. So they cheat a little bit with advertising, they cheat a little bit with nutrition facts, and they round down, making you think that there's no fat in a spray bottle of fat. Oh, God bless them. There's no way that that's true. Anyways, what you want to look at is the number of servings. So in this particular label, it's got 8 servings. So it gives you a rough idea of how many calories from fat are coming from something. So the first thing you want to look at is total number of calories. And then next to it on the same line typically is calories from fat. So in this particular example, it says 90 calories per serving. At this point, I don't really care how many servings are in there, but 90 are coming from overall calories in serving, and then 50 of those 90 are coming from fat. Well, again, you can pull out a calculator, but you divide the 50 into 90, and it's going to tell you a percentage. So I already know that 45 out of 90 is 50%. So 50 out of 90 is a little bit higher than 50%. And it's probably about 55 or 56%. Well, that's a high fat food. Anything over 10 to 20% of calories coming from fat is a high fat food. I know it's going to exclude quite a lot of foods that we're all typically used to. If you look at cheese is typically 70% or more. Cheddar is already in the 80s. All right, so those are high-fat foods. You need to understand that. The second thing is you don't always want to pay attention to the total grams of fat because that gets a little bit confusing for most people because it's dependent on the number of servings. If you got 500 servings in something and it's 5 grams of fat, well, that's a heck of a lot more than something that has only 8 servings. So in this particular example, there's 8 servings, there's 5 grams of fat in each serving. You multiply that together, and now you've got 40 grams of fat because 8 times 5 is 40. Well, okay, what does that really mean? Again, if you stick with the percentages of calories from fat, you're going to do really, really well. And the same thing is with sodium too. You can kind of pay attention to how much sodium, but we're going to tackle that on the next question of the day. All right. So the most important thing is take a look at the number of calories that you're getting, and then you also want to figure out what fat percentage is from that. That's going to tell you if it's a high fat or a low fat food. Remember, low fat, low sodium, that's the key. Have a great day. We're at 5 minutes. Thanks for listening.